Hey all, this is Anjali. How are you doing? So, stressed with the exams preparation? No worries, you just chill and prepare well and be confident because confidence is what matters. So, if you panic and you just keep thinking, how would I do it? How would I do it? It is not going to help you. Rather, make a proper plan, go with it, and you'll nail it. So as you've already done with two exams, English and physics for non-medical students and medical as well, for the science students basically. So your two exams are already gone. You're left with three. That's your chemistry, maths, and CS, computer science, which is your last exam. I know it's difficult to study for the last exam because you have so much other things going in your mind. But never mind, I'll guide you how to utilize your time to prepare well for computer science. As I can see, like you have your physics today, and then you have your chemistry on 13th. 13th, fine. You have a few days for that, and I guess in that you can't think of studying any other subject, so it's perfectly fine. But then after 13th, you have maths on 21st. So since maths is on 21st, you get some time in between. And no doubt, I know that maths need a lot of practice, a lot of revision, but still, if you could try, just take out an hour out of your whole day, that would give you a break from maths. And just give an hour for computer science for the first 4 5 days, and then rest of the days, like 2 3 days, you can just concentrate on maths. So if you even give an hour, it will help you to score much better in computer science as well. So I have already discussed in the videos about the pattern of the question paper, which remains same, which is same since many years. And in this particular video, I'm going to discuss the questions which you get regarding arrays and matrices. So that's very important because your question number 3 of board exam always contain one program for array, one program for matrix, and one question for the address calculation thing. So I'm just going to show you some basic solutions for that so that you have an idea how to solve these questions. Okay, so let's start with it. And if you could see, I have this file. This basically has all the questions which have come in the previous years for arrays, matrices, and the address calculation thing. I might have missed a few papers, but otherwise I've compiled them all over here. And I'm going to tell you the solution here. And if you want, you can download these files, the problems as well as the solution. Link for both of them is there in the description section. Okay. Okay. To start with, we have this question. Write a function in C++ to swap row elements of a two-dimensional integer array. 0th row with n minus 1th row, first row with n minus 2th row, and so on. The array and size are passed as parameters to the function. Okay, so that's the question. Now, if I have to solve this, it's not asked to write a program, it's asked to write a function. It's always like that. You never get a program, you get a function. Your function is not returning anything, so you're going to write void, make sure it's all in small letters. Then you have to give name for the function. In some questions, the names is also given in the question, so you have to use the same name. But since in this particular question, the name is not mentioned, so I take it as, let's say, swap. Okay, then I start with the round brackets. I have to receive the matrix. Make sure when you receive the matrix, you have to leave the row bracket empty and the columns, the maximum number of columns have to be specified. That's the way we read the matrix and arguments. Then I have int r and int c that tells me the number of rows and columns. And within the curly brackets, I'm going to write the code. Now the code we need is to swap the row elements. I have to swap first row with last row. Then I have to swap first second row with second last row and so on. That means the loop for rows should become, I should start from 0 and should go till middle. Why middle? Because if I'm going to swap, if I have, let's say, 6 rows, I swap the row 0 with 5, 1 with 4, 2 with 3. So how many times I have to repeat? I have to repeat 3 times. That means half of the total number of rows. So I take ij, and for swapping we need a variable temp. Then I start with the loop and I take I less than r upon 2. That is the number of rows upon 2. And then we have I plus plus. Inside this, swapping row means you have to swap all the elements of the row. So all the elements in first row have to be swapped with all the elements in the last row. Then you have to swap same way second and second last row. So that means I have to swap A00 with A50, A01 with A51, A02 with A52. So I need a loop for all the columns. So I take a loop for J, J is equal to 0, J less than C, J plus plus. Inside this we have to swap. So I'll write temp ij. Temp is equal to aij. So aij goes in temp. I can override the value of aij now. And what I'm going to put over here is r minus 1 minus I and j. Column number should remain same. The rows have to be different for the elements which needs to be swapped. And we put temp in this. That helps us in swapping. That's it. So this is the code for swapping. And that's the answer. So this is the final answer for this question. You don't have to print anything unless and until it is asked in the question. And whatever changes we are making in the array, they will be reflected back in main, since arrays and matrices are always passed by reference. You can make your answer look better by giving comments in this. So I can give a comment: loop to swap rows if there are rows, there would be r upon 2 swaps. So that's how we write this. So we can mark like this. Comments should be given, and try to write comments with a pencil or a black pen. Okay, don't write with the blue pen. Your commands should be in blue, and you have to use a pencil or a black pen to give the comments. Okay. Now, so this loop, it will work for the number of swaps, and this loop will work for all the columns. And if you could see, how is it swapping? Initially, I is 0. So A00 is swapped with A R minus 1 minus I. R is 6. 6 minus 1 gives you 5. 5 minus I, which is 0, gives you 5 only. So it will swap A00 with A50. Then J increases, becomes 1. It will swap A01 with A51, then A02 with A52, so on for the number of columns. Then when I becomes 1, it comes inside, J again becomes 0. This time I is 1, and this becomes R minus 1, which is 5, minus I, which gives me 4. So it will swap A10 with A40, then A21 with A41, and so on. And then when the loop works for the third time, I becomes 2, and r minus 1, which is 5, minus 2 becomes 3. So we're going to swap A20 with A30, A21 with A31. And that's it. The loop will not go further, and your rows are swapped. This is what we wanted out of the code. So that's how you write a function. Okay, I hope you understood how it works. Okay, let's read the second question here. An array S3020 is stored in the memory along the row with each of the elements occupying 2 bytes. Find out the memory location for the element 2013 if the element 913 is stored at the memory location 1000. Okay, I'm not going to solve this question here. I'm just going to write the formula so that you can solve of your own. But when you download the solution file, it would be solved in that. So you can cross-check your answer, okay? So it's row major matrix, and the formula for row major matrix, address of Aij, if I have to find, is base address plus you have I multiplied by the maximum number of columns plus j into width of a single element. So this is the formula. In case we have lower bound, so it becomes I minus LR and j minus lower bound of C. So it becomes that. Otherwise, this is the basic formula to find address of Aij. So use this formula to solve this question. And one of the options could be like, since one address is given, so using this you can find out the base address and then use that base address to find the address of 2013. Try it of your own and cross-check your answer when you download the solution file, okay? Then comes question 3. That's write a function in C++ to return the element which is present maximum number of times in an integer array. The function prototype is given below. So the question is that you have to find You have to find the element which occurs for the maximum time in the array. So if I have array elements as 8, 7, 6, 8, 2, 6, 6, 3, 4. So I have to find out that number which occurs for the maximum time in the array. Prototype is given as int max underscore times. Then we have to receive an array which is named as array only. So array is not a keyword. That's why we can have the name as array. And then we have int size. Okay. So let's start with this. What I have to do is I have to count for every number that how many times it comes in the array. So for that I take num, I take max, which is initially 0, I take count, then I take I and j. Okay. I have to check for every number in the array. So what I do is I start from a 0, a less than n minus 1, or let it be n, I plus plus. This will check for every number in the array. Since the number I'm checking, it appears 1, so I should start count initially by 1, and then I have to compare it with the rest of the numbers. The rest of the numbers means I have to start checking it from I plus 1, and then I write j less than n, j plus plus. So I start checking from the next position, and I check if array element ai is equal to aj. If it's equal to aj, then the count should increase by 1. If it is not equal, count should not increase by 1. This is how I will count how many times the element ai, that means the element at position I, comes in rest of the array. So it will keep increasing the count. So when it finishes, I get the number of times it's found. For example, I had 5 at A0, then it count is initially 1 for that because 5 is there for once. Then it starts whether 5 is equal to A1, whether 5 is equal to A2, whether 5 is equal to A3, A4, and so on. If at any position you get 5, the count is increased by 1. Okay, that's how it works. Now what we do is, after coming out of this loop, I have count for AI and I check, is this count greater than max? If this count is greater than max, max is the maximum times a number comes in an array. So if it is greater than max, I should change max. Max should be changed by count, and the number which has come for these many times should be stored in num, and that number is ai. So I store that in num, and this will continue for all the numbers. So once the outer loop is over, I can print that num, that is the number which we stored, which comes maximum time, occurs maximum times. And how many times it occurs, you can print that as well, that is count. So that's how I can print how many times it occurs. Okay, and then finish the function. So this is the code which checks that which number comes for the maximum number of times in the one-dimensional array. And obviously I have to make one change in this. I have written a everywhere wherever I have to take an array, and n for the size, but if I go as per the question, I have to write size instead of n, and instead of your a, we should write array, because the name of the array is not a, the name of the array is array. Okay, so I need to change this. Fine. So this is the final code, and give the comments in between wherever you feel like. So comment basically explains your code, like what you're doing in there. So you can add in the comments over there wherever you feel like. Okay. Then comes your question number 4. It says write a function sort score in C++ to sort an array of structure examinee in descending order of score using bubble sort. Assume the following definition of the structure. So basically you have to sort an array over here with the help of bubble sort. The logic of bubble sort remains the same, but the only thing is, instead of sorting the integers, you are sorting the array of examinee. So what I have to do is I have to receive an array. Instead of int, I'll write examinee because that's the data type. So I write examinee, this is the array, and then we write n, which is the size of the array. Okay, so A is my array of examinee and n is how many elements we have in that. Now, the main thing is, when you have to swap one structure variable, you need a structure variable of the same type. So I take a variable examinee temp, so that to swap two examinee records, we need temp for that. What else we need? We need I and j for the loops for bubble sort. As we know, bubble sort works for n minus 1 steps. So I take the outer loop which works for n minus 1 steps, and we have to compare the adjacent positions where j should start from 0 and it should work for n minus 1 minus I times. And what we have to do is we have to compare. We have to compare what? We have to compare AJ with AJ plus 1. So we have to compare AJ with AJ plus 1. But these are not integers, not floats, not characters. They are structure variables. And you have to sort as per the score. So I can't compare the whole structure variable. I have to write what do I need to check. Like I want to check AJ dot roll number, or I want to check AJ dot name, or the score. I want to check the score. So I'll write AJ dot score. Now, you have to sort in descending order. So I have to put less than. If it would be ascending order, so we check that if the value is greater, it should shift back and the smaller one should shift ahead. But here it's the opposite. I want the smaller value to go back and the higher value to come in the front. So I'll check if aj.score is less than aj plus 1 dot score. So that means the second one has the higher score. The higher score should come in front. So we should swap. So we should put temp as aj plus 1. aj plus 1 should be assigned the value at aj, and aj should be assigned the value which is there in temp. So that's how we swap. So here I've closed if. This one closes inner for loop. This one closes outer for loop, and the last one is obviously to close the function. So it closes the function, okay? Because I don't have much space here, so that's why I've put them on one line. Otherwise, you can write with proper indentation. So I hope you understand this. There is not much difference, because what happens is when you read this question in the exam, you get so panicked that, oh God, this is an array of structures. How would I sort it? And it becomes too difficult to solve it. Whereas you already know the answer. The answer is the same. The bubble sort logic is the same. Whether you're sorting integers, you're sorting floats, you're sorting structures, you're sorting strings. Whatever you're sorting, the sorting logic remains same. The only thing that matters is how are you going to compare and how are you going to swap. The logic is same. So the main statement that has to be checked is how do we compare and how do we swap them. That's the main thing, okay? So be careful, don't panic, read the question properly and see what can be done with that, okay? Okay, so that's how we sort the array using bubble sort for structures. Then comes an array T5020 is stored in the memory along the column with each of the element occupying 4 bytes. Find out the base address and address of element 3015 if an element 2510 is stored in the memory location 9800. Okay, so this one is a column major matrix. Since it's a column major matrix, the formula is going to be address of a ij if I have to find. So it's going to be base address plus what? Base address plus j into maximum number of columns plus I, and this whole thing into width of the single element plus the base address. So that becomes the address. Here again, you have already given the address of 2510. So putting this in the formula, you can get the base address. And using that base address, you can find the address of 3015, where 30 would be I, 15 will be j. This 50 is maximum number of rows, 20 is the maximum number of columns. So solve this and match the answers with the solution. Okay. So we have many more questions like this. So this is the first 5 questions which I have solved. And okay, if I see the question number 6, define a function swap array in C++ to swap the first and last row elements for a two-dimensional integer array passed as the argument of the function. You would think it is almost similar to the first one. The first one was to swap the rows, but here we had to swap first with the last row, second with the second last row, and then third with the third last row, and so on. But in this question, question number 6, they've not told to swap first with the last and second last and all. They've just told you swap first and last row. So we have to swap just first and the last row. So I don't need a loop for this. I just need a loop for the columns. And what I need to do there is I need to swap the first row, that means 0, and I have to swap my first row with the last row, which is going to be r minus 1 for sure. So we don't need this minus I, and that is it. And we don't need this, okay? So it's done. You don't need I either. So I'll just remove that. So I need a loop which works for all the columns, and it's going to swap the values of first row, that is A0, with the row R minus 1. That's it. So this is how you get your answer 6. So questions are almost similar, and there is no fixed set of questions that can be asked about area or matrices. It's just you should know the logics, and anything can be asked which you need to write. It could be as simple as to check whether the number is even or odd in an array, It could be that simple. Then as sort points, this again, you're going to try of your own. It's almost similar to question number 4. So just try solving it of your own, and then you can match with the solution file. Okay. Same as with question number 8. Then you have your question number 9, which is to swap columns. Then we have 10, 11, and all these set of questions are there. So many of the questions are there, and I'm not going to solve this in this one video because it will be difficult for you to grasp so much at one time. So I'll be putting the solutions for all of the questions down there, but you can download the complete thing, and as I upload the videos, you can match your solutions with that. And till now, we have almost done with the first page, that is question 1 to 8. So question 1 to 8 solution you will get in the file which is given in the description section, and the whole set of questions are there in the PDF which you get for this. So you can solve these questions of your own, and do subscribe the channel, and please turn on the bell so that when I put the solutions with the following questions, you get a notification for that. Till then, keep watching, keep learning. All the best for all your exams. Thank you.